I'm really tired of having the same conversation about the Columbus Blue Jackets. Unfortunately, we get to have it again as we talk about yet another blown lead. This one went real bad. Talking about that on today's Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favourite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. Thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the app now by visiting fanduel.com, and you can win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Talking about blown leads again today. There's a couple of other things I want to talk about. The Washington Capitals are in town tonight, or the Blue Jackets are in Washington tonight, I think is what's actually happening. And I'm sure that game's going to be real stupid, so we'll talk about that in a minute here. But we get to talk about the blown leads again. And this time it went sour for the Blue Jackets, right? Like, they've been really, really lucky with the blown leads. In the last however many millions of games, they've blown a lead, right? Like, they keep doing this. They keep blowing leads. It makes me feel insane. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. And I have some thoughts on the matter that I want to talk about, like in specifics in a minute. But here's the thing: the Blue Jackets have had leads in so many games. So this is going all the way back, by the way, to the Islanders game, November 2nd. So 3 weeks this has been going on. They have a lead in that late. They're up 2-1. They lose. The Flames game, they were never really in, so we're going to discount that one. The Canucks game, they were up, and then they weren't, and then they were up, and then they weren't, and then they lost. The Oilers game, obviously, that was the start of the of the real kind of blown leads. You're up 5-3, or you're up 4-2, and you let them get back in the game. You lose in overtime. The Kraken game, I believe the Blue Jackets were up and then allowed a late tying goal. The Oilers, again, you blow a lead, you're up 5-2, and they make it 5-4. You win in regulation, so I think that takes some of the like, here's the thing: they've been winning a lot of these games that they've been leading in, right? So I think it's really masked the issue, and we're going to talk about what Dean Evason said in a minute here, but so far, they lost. So, blown lead, Islanders lost. Blown lead, Canucks lost. Blown lead, Oilers lost. Blown lead, which I'm less mad about the Kraken one because it was 1-0 and then it was 1-1, right? They win. Blown lead, Oilers win. The Rangers, I believe they tied the game. So they didn't blow that lead. They lose in the shootout. Habs, blown lead, win in the shootout. Jets game, they were never in, so we're going to discount that one. Leafs, you're up 2-0. I'm less mad about that specific blown lead, like we talked about that in the episode where we recapped that game. But up 2-0, they tie the game, goes to overtime. And then the Red Wings, you're up 3-1. I didn't watch this game live because I had better things to do with my time, quite frankly. No, I just had plans. But you're up 3-1 with like 11 minutes left in the game. And as soon as they made it 3-2, I was kind of vaguely paying attention to my phone while I was actively watching a different game in person. But, you know, I checked my phone and I was like, oh, the Red Wings made it 3-2. The Blue Jackets are absolutely losing this game. And maybe that's me being a downer, but lo and behold, what do? Right? You're up 3-1. They scored twice in 3 minutes, I think, to tie the game at 3, and then Alex Brinket wins it in overtime. Just straight up not good enough, right? And I do wonder if, well, I did wonder if this would encourage Dean Evason to maybe think about why these leads keep getting blown, right? And it turns out, no. There's someone asked him about it. I believe Aaron Portsline in his post game article for the game. Basically, he was like, "Well, we asked Dean about it, and he's not worried. Like all of the games are different. We're going to keep playing our game, and all of the usual like coaching platitudes that you hear when a team is doing something that they shouldn't be. Right? Here's the thing: Everton should absolutely be worried about these blown leads. And the fact that they've been winning the bulk of these blown leads, I think, has really masked the fact that you can't keep doing this. Like, you just straight up can't keep doing this, right? Like, it's how many times over the past, like, 3 straight blown leads or whatever it was, were people talking about, yes, you're lucky now, but this is a bad sign, right? You have to stop giving points to other teams because it's going badly. It's not going badly. The Blue Jackets are winning, but you're giving points to teams that you might be competing with a wild card spot for, right? Like if I go back to the last handful of blown leads and teams that you've given points to, right? You gave 2 points to the Islanders. You gave 2 points to the Rangers. You gave a point to the Habs. You gave a point to the Leafs. You gave 2 points to the Red Wings when you should have given them nothing, right? Like, yes, the last 3 games are not division opponents. They are conference opponents, but the Blue Jackets were fighting with the Canadiens for that last playoff spot basically until game 81 of last season, right? And if it comes down to it the same way this season, right? Blue Jackets are a couple of points out, and you look and you realize that the reason they're a couple of points out is because either they gave points to the teams that are above them in the standings, or the teams that are kind of directly next to them in the standings that might end up being the Habs or the Red Wings or the Leafs or the Rangers or whoever. And then the other option is that you look and you realize that actually the Blue Jackets have in their 11 wins, I think they only have 5 regulation wins of their 11. Which you think, okay, well, they're 11, the Blue Jackets are 11-11 right now. They're above NHL 500 because of the overtime points. But yeah, so of their 11 wins, 6 of them are in regulation, 8 of them are in regulation or overtime, right? Blue Jackets have 3 shootout wins on the season plus 2 overtime wins, right? So of their 11 wins, 5 of them have gone past regulation. Then you look at the teams that are around them in the standings. So, for example, the Penguins is a really good example of this. The Blue Jackets and the Penguins have the same number of points. Penguins are 10, 6, and 5 on the season, but all 10 of their wins are in regulation. So they're 0-5 in overtime right now, and the Blue Jackets did win a shootout against the Penguins earlier this season. But if it comes down to it, and the Blue Jackets and the Penguins, for example, finish with the same number of points, the Penguins are going to get that playoff spot because they have managed to close every single game so far in regulation. You have to stop giving these overtime points. You have to start closing these games out in regulation. If the Blue Jackets were forcing overtime, probably we'd be having a slightly different conversation, right? Because regardless of the fact that it's basically the exact same of you get 2 points, the other team gets 1 point, or you force overtime and you get a point and you run, right? Which is a lot of for example, the Canadiens game. I feel like the Canadiens are happy to get a point out of that, right? Because the goaltending just wasn't there for them. Blue Jackets managed to blow a lead. Similarly, Toronto, I feel like, took that overtime, pity point, loser point, whatever you want to call it, and ran. Extremely, extremely frustrating to keep giving these points to teams that you are right up there, right up against in the standings. And we'll talk about the Capitals in a minute here, but the Blue Jackets, the Capitals are right there with the Blue Jackets. They're 11-9-2 on the season. So the Blue Jackets have managed to force overtime one more time, or they've blown a lead one more time than the Capitals. They've got one more overtime game under their belt, essentially. But again, Capitals have 11 wins. 10 of them are in regulation, plus an overtime win. They're 0-2 in the shootout. If it comes down to it, the Blue Jackets are going to be on the losing end of that battle just because of tiebreakers. And obviously the dream is that you get to the point where you don't need a tiebreaker to get into the playoffs. But then you look at the Eastern Conference kind of as a whole, right? And the Eastern Conference as a whole is insane this year. Of the teams, so the Maple Leafs are right at the bottom with 21 points. The leader of the East is the Carolina Hurricanes with 30. So there's 9 points separating the top of the East and the bottom of the East. However, separating the playoffs and the not playoffs is 4 points. Currently, the wildcard spots are held by Boston with 26, Philadelphia with 25, and then Pittsburgh, Montreal, Columbus all also have 25 points, but Philadelphia has the tiebreaker in terms of points percentage. They've just played fewer games. Washington in 24 points, Florida with 23 points, Buffalo and New York with 22 points, and then again, the Maple Leafs at the bottom with 21 points. So the Leafs basically are 2 wins away from being in a playoff spot, despite the fact that they're at the bottom of the East right now. You can't keep giving points to these teams. You have to do something about that. I don't care what it is. Literally just start winning your games in regulation. Stop blowing leads. And here's the thing. We're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail in a minute, because I decided to go and look to see, are they playing differently in the third period? And the short answer is yes. The long answer is, we'll talk about why that is and what's happening in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump right before checkout, it's super easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. And that's where Game Time comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It is your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I use it all the time when I'm in California. We get Sharks tickets for super cheap. Probably slightly less cheap now that the team is winning games, but there's no hidden fees. You can see exactly what your view looks like before you buy the tickets. They've got this great panoramic in-app seat view feature, so you know if you're going to be able to see the ice or if you're going to have to fight someone to see who gets to look from behind that pillar that sometimes happens in front of seats. And you can find NHL tickets for under $25, which is great value. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about what's going on with these blown leads. Because I'm tired. And I hadn't looked into this because I was like, is it just me? Is it my eye test? Or are they actually playing differently in the third period, right? I know that I joke on Twitter a lot about how the third period starts and it's time to watch the Blue Jackets kill a penalty for 20 minutes, despite the fact that they're playing 5-on-5. And I don't even know that it's the third period as much as it's that they just stop playing when they're up 2. So I'm on hockeyviz.com, which is Micah Blake McCurdy's site. He does a lot of really fun stat stuff. I like it. It's easy to pass. He does fun graphs and stuff. And basically, what part of what he has is you can look at how much offense a team is creating by the score of the game. So he's got it split into, if the Blue Jackets are down by 3, down by 2, down by 1. If it's a tie game, if they're up 1, up 2, or up 3 or more. And basically, it's tracking, like, if the Blue, for example, if the Blue Jackets have a 2-goal lead, how much offense are they creating and how much offense are they giving to the other team versus when the game is tied. So, the most often, the most common situation for a tie game is the beginning, right? When it's 0-0. The Blue Jackets have played more minutes tied than any other score breakdown, right? So they've played over 400 minutes with tie games. They've played 254 up 1, 98 minutes up by 2, and then 34 minutes up by 3 or more. Similarly, they played 233 down by 1, 30 minutes down by 2, and 44 minutes down by 3 or more. Here's what's interesting is when the Blue Jackets are down 2, that is when they create the most offense. So they are 18% better than league average at creating offense when they are down by 2. What this means is that when they're down by 2, they're trying desperately to score, right? When they're down by 1, they're 14% better. When they are when they're tied, they are 18% or almost 19% better at creating offense. So basically, they create the same amount of offense, essentially, when they are tied versus when they are down 2. They're also better defensively when they're down 2, which I do think is funny. But in terms of when the Blue Jackets are up, which is what we want to talk about, when they are leading by a goal, they are 4% better than league average than at creating offense. And they are 9% worse than average at allowing offense. When you get up 2, which I feel like the 2-goal lead is the most, and this might be confirmation bias, right? But when the Blue Jackets are up 2, they're actually 12% worse than league average at creating offense and 20% worse at allowing offense. So you can see basically that as soon as the Blue Jackets have a 2-goal lead, they turtle hard, which is insane because a 2-goal lead is nothing in the NHL, right? And again, we've seen that. How many times in the past 3 weeks have we seen this team be up by 2 and throw it away? I don't think being up by 2 is a reasonable score to start turtling, right? When the Blue Jackets are up by 3, they actually get a little bit better offensively, but they get so much worse defensively. So when the Blue Jackets are up 3 goals or more, now they've only played about half an hour of the entire season. And this is all at 5-on-5, by the way. So we don't have there's no power play or penalty kill effect here. This is purely 5-on-5. If the Blue Jackets are up by 3 or more, they are 69% worse than league average defensively. Insane. When they are up by 3, that is the most turtling and just holding out hope that I have ever seen. They also basically stop creating offense. They create a little bit more when they're up by 2, but it's so funny that I was like, you know what? It really feels like they stop trying as soon as they hit the third period. And I do think that it's not that they hit the third period. I think it's that they get a 2-goal lead and they're like, okay, time to be defensive. And this team is simply not great defensively. They are better than last season, so far anyway, which I think is also what's been frustrating about this is that I feel like, and this is probably what is kind of a direct result of the Blue Jackets overachieved last season, and now there are expectations, right? The Blue Jackets' underlying stats this season are actually better than last season, minus the fact that their finishing has fallen off a cliff, but they're getting better goaltending. Their 5-on-5 offense is better. Their 5-on-5 defense is better as well. Their power play looks incredible, and for some reason is just not scoring. I don't understand. I don't understand why the power play is like this. It's 35% better at creating offense than league average. It is just not scoring. It's gotten better recently. Obviously, they are, I believe, are now 21st in the league on the power play, which is nice. We will take mediocre over god awful, right? But the Blue Jackets' underlying stats is the point I'm making here. It is better than last season, but I feel like the the general feeling about the team is so much worse. And I do think it's because of these blown leads, right? But like the team defense is basically bang average. They are 1% better than league average at suppressing offense. And they're getting good goaltending. They have allowed 3 goals fewer than they should have done based on Micah's model. Now, obviously, every person's model is different because of the way they weight things and the way they calculate things, right? So Micah's model is not like the be all and end all. Other models will say different things, but according to Micah's model, which is the one I'm using here, they're basically league average in defense. Like they're not an extremely good defensive team, so it makes no sense for me anyway. It makes very little sense to get that 2-goal lead and then immediately think that actually what we should do is stop trying to score, because scoring and offense generation is a strength of theirs, right? Like they're one of the best teams in the league at creating offense. They stop doing it. As soon as they're up by 2, they stop doing it. And I don't think that this is a player thing. I think this is a coaching decision thing, right? And if I go to, there's another graph on here that I would like to try and find if I can. Basically, he has a graph for leverage deployment. So basically, it's what players get thrown on the ice at different times. So whether you need to hold a lead, whether you are in a late tie, whether you need a goal, and it basically has mapped out defensive leverage versus offensive leverage. And so offensive leverage is standing points gained by scoring relative to the team, and average defensive leverage is standing points lost by conceding relative to the team, right? So you can see which players are on the ice when they want to hold a lead. And the answer to that is probably the wrong ones. The third line continues to get so much more leeway in these situations. When it's a late tie, Monahan, Werenski, Marchenko, Fantilli are all out there. Funnily enough, Kent Johnson takes the ice a lot when the Blue Jackets need a goal. But you've got guys like Olivier, you've got guys like Miles Wood, you've got guys like Lundestrom. Like these guys are all on the ice when they're trying to hold a lead, despite the fact that you're getting basically no offense from them. Olivier specifically, you're getting not great offensive generation from him and also awful defensive leverage. And for some reason, he just continues to get like I feel like it's less so Olivier. Olivier is less egregious to me just because I feel like I see him less, but I feel insane every time the Blue Jackets need to shut down a game and they just send like a completely random, like they sent Jenna Coyle Monahan out when Jenna was healthy. Now I feel like it's Monahan, Coyle, and Lundestrom for some reason. And I get it that you want some centers out there, but I really, really feel like that's what's doing this team in is they get to a point and they stop rolling their actual lines and they start rolling Dean's special defensive lines. And that's just it's not gonna that's not gonna do it. Just straight up isn't gonna do it. So that's what's happening is the long and short of this. And I hope that wasn't too like inside baseball crunchy, but essentially the numbers say that the Blue Jackets got up by 2 and then just stopped playing. Essentially. And that's got to change because this is a good team and just keep playing a game. I don't understand why the third period hits and they just change everything. Because clearly the first and the second period, if you're playing well, it's working for you. If you're not playing well, I understand changing things up. But the Blue Jackets have been playing well in the first 2 periods. Especially, again, the Red Wings game. The Blue Jackets were out shooting Detroit 24-20 through 2. And then in the third period, the Red Wings had 11 shots to the Blue Jackets 9, and then they outshot the Blue Jackets 2-1 in overtime. Blue Jackets finished with a shot advantage of 34-33, but like they have to learn to step on the neck of the other team, is what it is, right? And they simply aren't doing that right now because they get to the third period or they get a 2-goal lead and they just turn off. And that's going to have to change. If you want to win games, if you want to win games in regulation, it's got to change. Speaking of games that you need to win in regulation, the Blue Jackets have to face the Capitals now. So let's talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First of all, I'll tell you about FanDuel. The NBA is back. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Frankly, if I am not a gambling man. Typically, I might start putting money on the Blue Jackets blowing a lead in the third period, and I will be miserable about the game, but at least I will have made a couple of bucks, right? You can also combine your live bets, if that's something you want to do, into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially if it's your team that's making that late push. Wonder what that's like. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Just find the heaviest favorite you can. Again, maybe put $5 on the Blue Jackets blowing a lead. And if it comes through, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets that you can spend on whatever you want. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up today. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk a little bit about the Washington Capitals, who started off hot this season, right? Like I feel like they were hovering around the top of the division. They've fallen off a little bit recently. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10 games. Blue Jackets are 4-3-3 in their last 10 games. So they've got 0.7 out of the last 10 games. So again, I feel like this episode has been really negative. I truly don't think that the sky is falling. But there are this team should be much better than this. They should have much better numbers than this. Like they should have won that first Oilers game. They should have won the Rangers game. They should have won the Detroit game. Like they should be 7-3 in their last 10 games, and they aren't. But Capitals, just coming off of a loss to Tampa Bay, but before that they had 3 straight wins. They're getting scoring from the expected places. Their goaltending is less good than the last time these two teams faced. The Blue Jackets faced them October 24th, exactly a month ago. Washington won 5-1, which I believe it was a 3-1 game, and then that Mathieu Olivier major that probably shouldn't have been a major. The Capitals scored twice on that and killed the game, essentially. So a more unbalanced score than it should have been. I don't think Jet played great in that game, but I also don't know that it was entirely his fault. I'll be interested to see what's happening with the goaltending tonight, because Jet, I thought, again, I didn't watch the game live, but I did catch up later. I thought Jet was fine in the game, and it really was the team around him that decided to just kind of throw it away. Would I have liked to save? Sure, but he's doing what he can out here. The Blue Jackets are basically playing the entire third period directly in front of him, so there's only so much he can do, right? That being said, I don't know if we'll see Elvis tonight. Probably we should, but I guess they've decided that Jet's the starter, and I don't think he played well enough against the Red Wings for them to definitively say, yes, we have to put Jet Greaves in. Elvis is going to have to bounce back sooner or later. Will it be tonight? On the flip side, maybe you don't put Elvis in. He does get emotional during Caps games. Obviously, there was that game a couple of years ago where he tried to murder Tom Wilson, which I support. But it did end up with, again, a major penalty, and they lost the game. So maybe don't put Elvis in because Tom Wilson gets under his skin. So Jet is less easily rattled by my personal nemesis, Tom Wilson. So maybe we see Jet tonight, which I'm fine with. Again, I thought Jet has been good. He was good against Toronto. He was excellent against the Rangers. He was good against Montreal as well. Like he's one bad game is not enough to sink my faith in Jet. And again, he's got a 904 save percentage on the season right now. He's doing fine, right? He's come back down to earth a little bit from the first couple of weeks of the season, but haven't we all? The goaltending on the side of the Capitals has also come down to earth. Logan Thompson has a 910 save percentage. After leading the league for a lot of the first kind of month of the season, he's probably still going to get Team Canada goaltending conversations, but he's really kind of, again, he's kind of regressed to the mean. So the Blue Jackets are probably going to face Logan Thompson. That's not as terrifying an option as last time. In terms of who to watch out for the Capitals, Tom Wilson is leading the team in scoring, which does feel kind of incorrect, but he's got 21 points in 22 games. Alex Ovechkin just had a hat trick the other night. He's got 20 points in 22 games. Dylan Strome, 20 points in 20 games. Jacob Chikrin and John Carlson also both have 19 points in the season so far. So they're getting, their team is a little top heavy, but also like so is the Blue Jackets, right? Like they've got, what was that, 5 players with 19 points at least. The Blue Jackets do not have that. They have got Kromachenko at 22, Werenski at 21, and then Voronkov at 18, Fantilli at 17. And then it drops off a little bit. So, like, it's a little bit more spread out than the Capitals, but the Blue Jackets are still a little bit riding or dying on that top line. Would love to see more from some other guys. You know, I don't know. I assume that the third line will get plenty of ice time tonight. Hopefully, they don't do anything stupid with it. But again, like the Blue Jackets are a very top-heavy team right now, which is not ideal, but is what's happening, right? I don't know how this game is going to go. The Capitals are, according to the host of Locked On Capitals, anyway, I was checking with him earlier today. The Capitals are struggling a little bit. They are, again, they were really strong to start the season and have since come back down to earth. The Blue Jackets could really use a great 60 minutes of hockey, right? Like they've had a few games now where they've played a great 40 minutes and then thrown it away. They need to play a great 60 minutes. I don't know if the Capitals is the team they're going to do it against. But if there was ever a time for a regulation win, it's right now. The Capitals are a point behind the Blue Jackets in the standings, and they have 4 more regulation wins. I'm not going to go ahead and rehash all of the regulation stuff that we talked about earlier in this episode, but like, this is a game that you have to win in regulation. And if you do, bearing in mind that other teams are playing, so, the standings will shift around a little bit, but the Blue Jackets will jump to 27 points on the season, which will put them in contention for kind of between a wild card spot and the 3rd seed in the Metro. I believe the 3rd seed in the Metro right now has 27 points, but the Blue Jackets will have fewer games played and also fewer regulation wins. So they'll be right there, and that's the other thing is I feel like, again, we talk about how the sky is falling, etc., 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 but like the Blue Jackets are right in the mix. However, think about where they could be if they'd closed out a bunch of these games, so not given the Rangers 2 points, not given Detroit a point. If they'd beaten Edmonton, like if they hadn't thrown that game against the Islanders away, like they'd be, near the top of the division. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's good that they're blowing all these leads. Like, yes, they're getting wins out of it, but like if the Blue Jackets had closed out, 2 more of these games, they'd be they'd be right up there with the Hurricanes, So close out this game in regulation, get it done. Just win the game in regulation, Let's talk predictions real quick. Every day, as you know the drill, we're going to predict the final score and pick an anytime goal scorer from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Get your predictions in the YouTube comments, or there's going to be a tweet going up. Get your predictions there as well. This is, I believe, game 23 on the season, so we'll be doing another leaderboard update in a couple of games, so get your predictions in. I think I'm going to continue to go with the hot hand, right? I think I'm going to go with Adam Fantilli. Who has, I think, 7 goals in his last 8 games, is tied for the team lead in scoring with Dmitry Voronkov. I don't know what kind of pace he's on right now, but truly, truly incredible what happens when you give him, like, actual line mates, right? And I know that good players should be able to create without, like, having to be put with like elite line mates, but also surely you want to put your players in the best position to succeed, and he's in a position to succeed right now, and he's thriving. He's on pace for 34 goals right now, a 64-point season, which would be 10 better than last season for him. Obviously not on pace with some of the other guys that in his kind of age group and peer group, Celebrini, Bedard, Carlson, etc. But those guys, I think, will not keep up the pace that they're at. Some of them might, but I don't think all of them will. And I think Adam Fantilli will continue to improve. Right, he's coming up on. If he has another couple of good multi-point games, he's coming up on a point a game player. Right, which considering for the first 15 games of the season, he had 4 points or whatever it was. It wasn't quite that bad. I'm being dramatic here, but he's moving in the right direction, right? So Adam Fantilli is my goal scorer. Let's go ahead and peg and pencil in an overtime game because this team hates me. Let's say a 5-4 overtime win against the Capitals with an Adam Fantilli goal. At least one Adam Fantilli goal. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to get more. That's my prediction. Get yours down below. And tomorrow we'll break down tonight's game. The good, the bad, and the ugly. You know the drill. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter and LO-Blue Jackets on Blue Sky. We're also over on TikTok if you're a TikTok person. So go check us out over there. And that's all I've got for today. Thank you for listening, making it your first listen of the day every single day. Thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. Tune in tomorrow for a breakdown of tonight's game. But until then, make sure you stay locked on.